What happens when a self-made CEO poses as a rookie bartender and discovers his drinks are being watered down before they even hit the glass. Yale Weston stood behind the tinted windows of his parked truck, watching the neon sign of his own bar flicker in the distance. 10 bars across 3 states, all built from scratch. It started with a single dive bar in Tulsa, and now, 10 years later, it was a full chain. He was proud of what he'd built, but lately, something didn't sit right. It wasn't one thing. A few negative Yelp reviews. A couple of regulars saying the drinks tasted weak. Nothing huge. But when his assistant forwarded him a comment from a customer that said, "Feels like we're paying for water and ice," something in him snapped. He had never personally worked at this location in Kansas City. It was the 8th bar he opened, and the staff had been hired by his now district manager. No one at this location had ever met him in person. And that was exactly what he needed. So he shaved the beard, dyed his hair a few shades darker, and threw on a faded hoodie and jeans. With a pair of thick-rimmed glasses and a name tag that read Kyle New Hire, he walked in through the back entrance just before 5 on a Friday evening. The bar manager, a short, wiry guy named Brent, barely looked up from his clipboard. "You're the new barback, right?" Yale nodded. "All right. We're short 2 tonight, so you'll be doing a little of everything. You bartended before?" "Some," Yale said, keeping it vague. Brent rolled his eyes. "Figures, just don't screw up. You'll shadow Gina tonight. She's solid." Yale followed Gina out to the main bar. She was fast, sharp, and had a way of talking to customers that made people smile even when the place got slammed. "You ever cut limes?" she asked, tossing him a small bin. "Sure," Yale said, grabbing a knife. "You're lucky you got me and not Brent," she said under her breath. He'd yell if the wedges were too fat. Yale didn't respond. He just watched. Gina made 4 drinks in under 30 seconds and still managed to wink at a couple sitting at the bar. By 7, the place was packed. Music bumping, people laughing, and Yale found himself pouring beers, wiping counters, and grabbing bottles off high shelves. He stayed close to Gina, learning the rhythm. But something started feeling off. Gina leaned into him between orders. "Hey, real quick, Brent's gonna come around and ask if you prepped the wells. Just say yes. And if he asks about the pour, say it's standard." "Got it," Yale frowned. "Why?" She hesitated. "Just say it. Trust me." 10 minutes later, Brent came by, smiling in a way that didn't reach his eyes. "Wells ready?" "Yeah," Yale said. "Good, and pour's still standard, right?" "Right." Brent patted his shoulder. "Keep it that way. We're running tight on liquor costs this week." Yale's stomach turned, but he kept his face neutral. He watched Brent walk off, then quietly asked Gina, "What does that mean, standard?" She looked uncomfortable. "It means less than it should be. He started making us cut the pours, half shots, sometimes less, especially on weekends." "That's not legal," Yale said. Gina sighed. "Tell him that." Last time someone pushed back, they got their hours cut. Yale gritted his teeth. He'd built this business to be honest, to give people a place to relax, not get cheated. He kept working. Observing. "Customers complained subtly, 'This tastes weak,'" one man muttered. A woman asked for a double and narrowed her eyes at the glass. "This is a double." By 10, Yale had seen enough. He found Gina behind the bar, wiping down glasses. "Hey," he said quietly. "Does everyone know about the pours?" She looked around, then nodded. "We all do it. Brent says it's from higher up, but we don't know who. He just says we'll get cut if we don't." Yale's jaw tightened. "And no one said anything?" Gina gave a tired laugh. "To who? We don't know anyone corporate. We just clock in and pray we don't piss him off." Yale stepped back, the weight of it sinking in. He'd trusted his managers, trusted the system. But now he saw the cracks. He turned, glancing toward the office in the back where Brent had disappeared. It was time to dig deeper. By the time last call drew near, Yale's shoulders ached and his hands were sticky from beer taps and citrus juice. It had been hours of blending in, staying quiet, and watching every move Brent made. At closing, Brent barked orders while leaning against the wall with a half-empty tumbler in hand. He wasn't lifting anything, just pointing. "Kyle, trash. Gina, mop. Devin, count the drawer, and make it quick, we don't get paid past 2. Yale grabbed the trash bin, dragging it toward the back door. As he passed the office, he noticed the door slightly ajar and heard Brent's voice inside. Yeah, I told him it's from upstairs. Kid swallowed it. You start telling people cut costs and they don't ask too many questions. Yale paused, hidden just beyond the door frame. Well, if you don't want the liquor invoices catching heat, you better keep pushing the generic labels. I swapped the labels myself. No one's checking. There was a pause. Brent's voice dropped. Even if they do, I got the poor logs corrected, they won't know. Yale backed away quietly, heart pounding. He took the trash out the rear exit and stood outside for a moment, the cool night air helping him think. Brent wasn't just cutting corners, he was actively manipulating records, swapping labels. That was bigger than shaving ounces. He returned to the bar. Gina was stacking chairs onto tables, her expression drained. Ever notice the well bottles feel lighter than they should be when you start your shift? He asked, keeping his voice low. She nodded once, then added, sometimes they're warm too, like they've been sitting out. I stopped asking questions. Has anyone ever checked the labels? Yale pressed. She gave him a weary look. None of us want to poke around. Brent's not subtle when he's mad. The next evening, Yale arrived early. Brent wasn't in yet, which gave him time. He found Devin, the youngest bartender, restocking the fridge. You know where the backup well bottles are kept? Yale asked. Devin hesitated, then nodded toward the locked cabinet in the back storage area. Brent's the only one with the key. Says it's to control shrinkage. Yale glanced at the cabinet. They ever let you see the invoice sheets? Devin shook his head. That's all Brent. He does books on Sundays and locks them in the filing drawer. I saw him yell at Zach once for even glancing at the clipboard. Zach doesn't work here anymore. Devin's expression darkened. He left after that, said Brent was shady. I think Brent cut his schedule down to 1 shift a week. Yale clenched his jaw. Thanks, man. That helps. He spent the rest of his shift watching Brent more closely. The manager rarely touched any actual work. He stood behind the service station, sipping from his own glass, occasionally wandering to the back to check on the drawer but never touching dishes or helping with restocks. By midnight, one of the servers, a woman with short curly hair named Tasha, approached the bar with a tight expression. Gina, we've got a table complaining their whiskey sour tastes like lemonade. Brent overheard and walked up. Tell them that's how it's made. If they want it stronger, they can order a double and pay for it. Tasha didn't move. They already paid for a double. Brent's voice hardened. Then tell them it's a sour and not a straight pour. If they don't like it, there's the door. Yale stepped in. Why not just remake it? Brent turned. Because we don't remake drinks for people fishing for freebies. And you new guy, this your bar? Yale didn't respond. He just looked at Tasha, who was clearly uncomfortable. Take the drink off their tab, Yale said, keeping his tone even. Brent's gaze sharpened. You don't give orders here, Gina spoke up quietly. They're regulars. They come every weekend. Brent cut her off. Then they know the rules. No remakes unless we mess up the order, and no freebies. Yale locked eyes with him. You keep track of poor costs. Wouldn't a remake be cheaper than losing a loyal table? Brent laughed harshly. You don't get it. We're not here to pamper. We're here to move volume and keep overhead low. Yale turned away, jaw tight. Later, as he helped Gina refill the fruit trays, he kept his tone low. Has Brent ever told you to pour from specific bottles? She hesitated, then nodded. He marks some bottles with a black dot under the cap. Says to use those for well orders. Says they're house standard. Yale frowned. You ever notice anything off about them? They smell weird. One time I poured vodka for a guy who always orders the same thing. He said it tasted like rubbing alcohol. I told Brent, and he just said the guy was probably sick. Yale's stomach turned. He'd trusted his supply chain, but not once had he considered someone tampering with the inventory itself. The next morning, he arrived before opening and asked the daytime kitchen lead, Marcus, for help. Can you open that liquor cabinet? Yale asked, gesturing to the locked storage. Marcus looked wary. Only Brent has the key. Yale lowered his voice. It's important. Just need a peek. Marcus pulled a ring of keys from his belt loop and tried a few until one clicked. Yale opened the cabinet. Inside were several cases of bottles, all labeled as premium brands, but the seals looked uneven. Some were slightly off-center. Yale picked up a bottle of tequila and unscrewed the cap. The smell hit him immediately: harsh, synthetic, wrong. He opened 3 more. Same story, the contents didn't even match the expected color. Jesus, Marcus muttered. That's not Patron. Yale didn't respond. He was already pulling out one of the invoices from the back of the cabinet. It was dated 3 weeks ago, listing a full case of Grey Goose and Don Julio. The brands matched the labels but not the contents. He took photos of everything and returned the bottles. Thanks, Marcus. Lock it back up. That night, Brent arrived 20 minutes late, looking irritated. Why are the barbacks touching inventory? He barked. No one touched anything, Yale said smoothly, just trying to stay ahead of prep. Brent narrowed his eyes. Just don't go snooping. The night was slow until around 10 when a couple at the bar asked Gina if they could speak to a manager. Brent swaggered up. What's the issue? The man leaned in. We ordered top-shelf gin and this isn't it. I drink Hendrick's every week. This tastes like rail, Brent shrugged. That's what you were served. Yale stepped forward. I poured that one. Want me to remake it? Brent's face flushed. No, we don't remake drinks because someone doesn't like the taste. The woman spoke up. We're paying $12 a glass. This isn't what we ordered. Brent leaned in, voice low. You don't like it, you can leave. Yale stepped between them. You two sit tight, I'll get you a new pour. Brent grabbed his arm. Who the hell do you think you are? Yale turned slowly. I'm the guy who owns this bar. The room went dead silent. Gina froze mid-pour. Devin dropped a glass. Brent blinked, confusion giving way to something more venomous. What? Yale pulled the glasses off. My name's Yale Weston. I founded this company. And I've been watching you lie to customers, threaten staff, and serve counterfeit liquor under forged labels. Brent took a step back. This is a setup? No, Yale said quietly. This is accountability. He turned to Gina. You're not working under him another night. To Devin and Tasha. No one here is. Then he looked back at Brent. You're done. Get your things. I'll be reviewing every invoice, every log, and forwarding what I found to legal. Brent's mouth opened, but nothing came out. You manipulated records. You defrauded customers. You intimidated employees into staying silent. That's not just immoral, it's criminal. Yale turned to the staff. Anyone else who saw something, say something. You're safe now, and I need to know everything. Brent didn't speak as he walked out. No flinch, no apology. Just silence. Yale watched him leave, then turned to the others. Let's get this place cleaned up. Starting tomorrow, things change. The next morning, Yale arrived at the Kansas City location just before sunrise, still dressed down in what had now become his cover uniform: hoodie, jeans, and worn sneakers. The only difference was the energy in his walk and the key ring in his pocket. Brent's was now in his possession. Inside, the place was quiet. Chairs still upside down on tables, the faint scent of citrus and cleaning solution lingering in the air. Gina was already there, sleeves rolled up, prepping garnishes without being asked. She looked up when he entered. What now? She asked cautiously, pausing with a lime in hand. You're not prepping alone again, Yale said. You're off the clock until your actual shift starts. Go grab coffee or something. I'll handle the early stuff. She blinked. Seriously, he nodded once. Seriously. You've been pulling double the work for half the credit. She hesitated, then set down the knife. All right, I'll be back in 30. As she left, Yale opened the office and laid out everything he'd taken from the locked cabinet the night before: bottles, invoices, and Brent's handwritten pour logs. He took photos of each page for legal and compliance, then picked up his phone. Get me Mia from compliance, he said once his assistant answered on the second ring. I need a full audit started on KC8. Brent was altering logs and we might be looking at counterfeit spirits. By 10 o'clock, the staff began arriving. Devin walked in with headphones around his neck, gave a cautious wave, and started wiping down the bar. Tasha followed soon after, carrying her own bar towel and glancing around like she wasn't sure what to expect. Yale stepped out of the office and addressed them directly. "I'm not here to make a speech," he said, "but I owe you clarity. Brent's gone." We're doing a full review of the inventory and systems he had in place. In the meantime, if you see anything that doesn't belong, bad bottles, empty labels, incorrect logs, bring them to me or Gina. No questions asked. Devin raised his hand slightly. "What about shift schedules?" "He used to change them last minute." "I already pulled the roster," Yale said. "No one's losing hours without a conversation, and if you're ever called off without cause, you come straight to me." Tasha stepped forward. "Are we getting a new GM, eventually?" "But not until I know who's actually qualified to lead this team. That means for now, I'm the acting manager." She nodded slowly, absorbing the change. By noon, the bar had opened and Yale worked shoulder to shoulder with the staff. He didn't hover, he poured, cleaned, restocked, and checked deliveries. When the distributor arrived with a pallet of bottles, Yale handled the count himself. The delivery driver, a man in his 50s with a clipboard and thick glasses, peered at him. "Brent usually signed for these." "I'll take it from now on," Yale said. "You ever notice inconsistencies in what was ordered versus what was delivered?" The man scratched his chin. "Not directly, but Brent insisted we deliver the house brands last. Said he wanted to inspect them personally. I thought it was odd. Most guys just sign and move on." Yale took the clipboard, signed, and thanked him. Once the bottles were inside, he checked each seal against the known supplier list. Everything matched this time. He made a note to keep it that way. Later that afternoon, after lunch service slowed, he found Gina behind the bar, rolling her shoulders with a wince. "You all right?" he asked. She gave a dry laugh. "I'm fine. Just been working 6-day weeks, back-to-back doubles. My body's not used to slowing down." "You won't be scheduled that way again," he said. "But I need something from you." She looked up, cautious again. "I want to know who on this team actually wants more responsibility. Not because they're gunning for power, but because they care about the place." She leaned against the counter. "That's not hard. Tasha's the most organized. Devin's green, but he's sharp. Marcus, the kitchen guy, he's probably the most level-headed person here. He kept things from falling apart when Brent went off the rails." Yale nodded. "I'll talk to them. I'm building a short list." That evening, customers started arriving faster than expected. A local group of teachers came in after a conference, filling 4 booths and half the bar. It was the first time in weeks the place had that kind of buzz without a theme night. Yale took a station and started pouring. One of the teachers, a woman in her 40s wearing a denim jacket, ordered a round of martinis. Yale mixed them himself, no shortcuts. As he handed them over, she took a sip and paused. "This is actually good," she said. "Last time we came here, it tasted like someone poured water in a glass and waved a bottle near it." Yale gave a small nod. "We've made some changes." "Well," she said, raising her glass, "you've got us back." As the night went on, Yale noticed something else. The staff moved easier. Tasha was smiling at tables. Devin cracked a joke with a customer. Even Marcus came out from the kitchen for a few minutes, chatting with Gina between orders. But the calm didn't last. At around 10, a man Yale didn't recognize walked in. Tall, early 30s, expensive button-down, and an expression that shifted the mood instantly. He walked straight past the host stand and leaned against the bar like he owned it. "Where's Brent?" he asked, eyes scanning the room. Gina stiffened. "He doesn't work here anymore." The man gave a short laugh. "That's funny. He still owes me for helping him move that special stock last month." Yale stepped forward. "Who are you?" "Name's Rick. I'm with Ridgeway Imports. Brent and I had an arrangement." Yale's voice dropped. "You were supplying him off the books." Rick shrugged. "He said it was company approved." "I just delivered what he asked for, cheaper than going through your main distributor." Yale pulled out his phone. "You're going to sit down in that booth and you're going to wait for someone from our legal team to call you. Don't leave." Rick scoffed. "You serious?" "I'm very serious." You were part of a scheme to sell counterfeit alcohol under premium labels in my bar. Rick's jaw flexed. I didn't know it was counterfeit. Then you'll have a chance to explain that under oath. Rick looked like he might bolt, but Marcus had already quietly stepped into place behind him, arms crossed and blocking the exit. Rick sat. After the police arrived and took Rick's statement, Yale returned to the bar. The staff was quiet, shaken but alert. Gina leaned in. That guy, he came by twice last month. Brent said he was a private vendor. He was part of the problem, Yale said. And he's not coming back. The rest of the shift passed without incident, but the team stayed late helping clean, talking through what had just happened, checking stock one more time just to be safe. Before they left, Yale gathered them near the bar. I can't fix everything overnight, he told them. But I can promise this: no more middlemen, no more threats, no more being told to cut corners while someone else pockets the difference. Tasha folded her arms. You really had no idea what was happening. I didn't, Yale said, but I should have. And that's on me. Devin looked up. So what now? Now, Yale said, we rebuild this place properly, with the people who actually give a damn. No one applauded, no one cheered. But they stayed an extra 10 minutes, just talking, not out of obligation, but because for the first time in a long while they actually wanted to. 3 weeks later, the Kansas City bar opened its doors to a Friday night crowd that looked noticeably different. For the first time in months, there was a steady line forming before the lights even flickered on. The sidewalk was clean, the music system had been fully recalibrated to actually play what the staff selected, and the newly installed chalkboard above the bar displayed a handwritten note. No shortcuts, no tricks, just real drinks. Welcome back. Yale stood behind the service bar, not undercover this time. He wore a plain black button-down, sleeves rolled, and an expression that was calm but alert. The transition hadn't been smooth, nothing meaningful ever was. In the weeks following Brent's removal, chaos had surfaced in layers. Inventory records were a mess, vendor contracts had to be re-reviewed. Staff morale, while improved, still carried the weight of caution, but they were moving forward. Tasha walked over from the host stand, holding a list of reservations. We're about 3 tables overbooked between 8 and 9. Want to try and squeeze in the walk-ins or push them to the bar? Bar for now, Yale said. Let's not kill the servers before we hit peak. She nodded. Marcus said the kitchen's pacing well. He added a second fryer on his own dime last week, said it was easier than fighting the old one every night. Yale raised an eyebrow. He bought it himself, used one off a closing diner. Said it was either that or keep apologizing to customers for soggy fries. Tell him I'll reimburse him and give him a raise, effective tonight. Tasha didn't smile, she just nodded once and walked back to the front. She didn't need to be grateful. She needed to trust that good work would actually be recognized. Behind the bar, Devin was working a well station by himself. His movements were more confident now, but he still checked the screen before every order, double-checked the garnish bin, and kept his bar towel neatly folded on the rail. He was trying, that mattered more than speed. Devin, Yale said as he passed, how's the training going with the new hire? Better than mine, he replied. She actually got a real orientation. Plus, Gina's been walking her through the cocktail book. Yale poured a whiskey neat for a table and leaned over. You feel ready to take on more than 1 shift a week behind the bar? Devin looked unsure. I mean, yeah. But only if it doesn't mess with the others. Like, I don't want to take hours from anyone. You're not. We're expanding hours next month. You'll get 2 more shifts. Cool, I'm in. At the far end of the bar, Gina was finishing an order for a group of medical students. Her posture was different now, less guarded, more grounded. She moved like someone who wasn't waiting to be undermined. When Yale walked over, she handed off a tray and turned to him without needing an explanation. Schedule's tight next week, she said. I filled 4 open slots, but we still need a closer for Saturday. I'll cover it, Yale said. I'm not stepping away until we're fully staffed. She gave a slow nod. You're still planning to promote someone internal for the GM role? Yeah. You're at the top of that list. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she started cleaning her shaker, then said, I'm not interested in taking that job if it means just putting out fires all day. It won't, Yale replied. The systems are being rebuilt. You'd have full hiring authority, real support, and a direct line to me. You'd shape the next chapter. And if I say no, she asked, then I find someone else, but I'd rather build around someone who already earned this team's trust. She thought for a moment, then said, give me until Monday. I want to see how the weekend goes. Fair, Yale said. Let me know. A few minutes later, the bar's newest server, a woman named Lee, approached Yale. She looked nervous. Hey, can I ask something? Always, he said, that guy at table 12. He asked me if I was actually allowed to be a server here because I don't look like the others. He said it loud enough that the next table heard. Yale's expression didn't change. What exactly did he say? He said, are you sure you're not supposed to be in the kitchen? I asked what he meant, and he just laughed and said, it's a joke, sweetheart. Yale didn't pause. You did nothing wrong, point him out. She glanced over her shoulder. The man was sitting with two others, wearing a blazer he clearly thought made him untouchable. Yale walked over with no hesitation. Sir, he said plainly, you're going to close your tab and leave. The man looked confused. Excuse me? You don't speak to my staff like that. You made a racist comment in my bar and I don't allow that. I didn't. I don't need to hear it. Your server was clear, you made her uncomfortable and you crossed a line. You're done here. The man scoffed and stood. You're kicking me out for a joke? I'm removing someone who doesn't respect the people who make this place work. The man muttered something under his breath as he walked out. Yale didn't respond. He turned back to Lee. If anyone ever talks to you like that again, you come straight to me or Gina. Understood? Lee nodded. Thanks. I didn't know if I should say anything. You always should. That won't fly here. As the night wore on, the energy stayed high. Customers were talking about the drinks again in a good way. The word was getting out that the bar had changed, not rebranded, not remodeled. Changed around midnight, Marcus emerged from the kitchen with a short list in hand. We're running low on 3 items, he said. I can stretch it tonight, but we'll need to reorder first thing. Yale took the list. I'll handle it. You need to go home early. You've been pulling doubles since Monday. Marcus didn't argue. He just nodded and headed back to wrap up. By last call, the bar was still 3/4 full. The difference was clear. People were staying longer. Not because they were trying to get their money's worth, but because they were being treated with respect, served properly, spoken to like human beings, and welcomed without pretense. After the final tab was closed, the staff gathered near the bar without being asked. Gina leaned against a chair, arms crossed but relaxed. Tasha sat on a bar stool sipping water. Devin was still drying glasses. Yale looked at them. 3 weeks ago, this place was running on fear and shortcuts. Now it's running on you. Devin glanced up. We still got a long way to go. Yeah, Yale said, but we're not pretending anymore. That's the difference. Tasha asked, you going back to the corporate office? Not yet. I'll be here through the month, then checking in weekly. And I'm keeping a direct line open for all of you. No filters. Gina stood up. Then I'll take the GM role, but I want to train 2 assistant managers under me. No more single points of failure. Done, Yale said. Pick who you trust and we'll back them. She nodded once. That was all. The team got back to closing, stacking chairs, locking registers, and sweeping floors. No one rushed. No one complained. They just did the work quietly together. Yale stayed behind after everyone left. He stood alone behind the bar, running his fingers over the polished wood. For the first time in a long time, he didn't feel like a stranger in his own business. He poured himself a soda water, raised it slightly, and whispered to the empty room, back to basics. That's how we stay honest. Then he turned off the lights.